This is just the opposite of her speech. Who am I? There was an English comedy group named Monty Python. And years ago, they had a comedy skit where a man walks into an office and he says, "I'm here for an argument." And the lady signs him up and, "Yeah, okay, go to room 12. And he goes to room 12, he opens the door, and the man sitting at the seat in nice English accent says, "Oh, what do you want, you incompetent, incorrigible twit? What are you doing here, you bag of poop?" I'm here for an argument." "Oh, I'm sorry, this is abuse. You want room 12A, next door." "Oh, okay." So the man goes down the hall, and he opens the door, and the man says, "I've told you once." "No, you haven't." "Yes, I have." "No, you haven't." "Yes, I have." "No, I'm here for an argument." "No, you're not." "Yes, I am." "No, you're not." "Yes, I am." "This is not an argument. This is just a contradiction." "No, it's not." "Yes, it is." "No, it's not. A contradiction is not an argument." "Well, it can be." "No, it can't." And on and on and on, which is where my story begins, really. I went to the Department of Motor Vehicles, License Bureau, and my wife was getting her license. And I said, "Oh, I'll just check for mine." It's a couple months later, and I take out my Social Security card, which I had since I was about 13 years old, and it has a funny signature from a 12-year-old or something like that. And the man says, "No, that's no good anymore. You have to get a new Social Security card for your license." So my wife had different papers, and her Social Security card was no good either, but she got her license anyway with some W-2 forms. So we were down in Salt Lake City one day, and we had nothing to do, and we filled out all these forms because we were going to a concert anyway, and we went to the Social Security office. And when you go to the Social Security office, you got to go through a metal detector. I guess there's terrorists there. And guards with guns, for some reason. And then you go through and get everything out and check it, even tougher than the airport. And you go sit down in the machine and it says, "What do you want?" And you tell them what you want, and it spits out a number. So after waiting about a half an hour with a lot of foreigners, who I guess are there for some different reasons than I am, my wife gets her number called, and she goes up, she gives her the passport and her license, and she comes back and she has her Social Security card, no problem. So I get up and I go to the bulletproof glass and give the gentleman my license and passport. And after looking on the computer for a little while, he says, "Sorry, can't give you a card." I said, "What's the problem?" He says, "Well, your license and your passport says Fred Eli Rubenfeld, but on my computer it says Frederick Eli Rubenfeld." "So what's the problem?" "Well, this says Frederick and this says Fred. So what's the problem?" "Well, this says Frederick and this says Fred. So what's the problem?" "Well, this says Frederick. Well, I am Frederick, but I haven't gone by Frederick for 50 years. And maybe my mother used to call me Frederick when I was in trouble." And he says, "Well, I need some proof that you're Frederick." Frederick, right? "No, it's not." "Yes, it is." "No, it's not." "Yes, it is." The Monty Python just comes right into my head. I could see I was not going to get anywhere with this person. So I said, "Let me see a supervisor, because I know you get a supervisor in there, and I don't want to leave with empty-handed." So he says, "Okay, you want to see a supervisor? Okay." So I go back and another half an hour wait for the supervisor, and I go to another bulletproof glass place, and I say, "The problem was, here's my license, here's my passport, and it says Fred Eli. I haven't gone by Frederick in 50 years. If you want me to call my mother, I call my mother. Yes, I'm Frederick." He says, "Well, since 9/11, blah, 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 you have to have the same name." "You mean you don't think I'm Frederick? Or you don't think I'm Fred?" "No, I totally believe you are who you say you are." You think I could invent a name like this? No, I think you're right. So you mean like Dave, David, Mitch, Mitchell, Pete, Peter, they couldn't get their license? No, they couldn't get their license. They have to have the exact name what's on some identification. Wait a minute. You know, I'm not 65 yet, but when I get 65, when I get those checks, who are they going to send those checks to? Will they get to Fred Rubenfeld? Yeah. So what's the problem? I'm Frederick, I'm Fred. And it's all because of damn uncle of mine, very artistic, very creative. When I was born, my parents were going to go Fred and Eric Rubenfeld. Very nice, simple. He said, oh no, he has to have an artistic name. He might be creative, and he might be an author or a musician. And he was a musician and a very high, important person in the music industry. And so they named me Frederick. Well, a year later, he had a kid, and he named him John. And John became a very famous author. He's a sports commentator, John Feinstein. And he's my cousin, but he just has John. So going back to this gentleman here, so you mean I can't get my Social Security card? No, you have to be Frederick. You have to have proof that you are Frederick. Who goes by Frederick? You are discriminating against long names. My wife's name is Dale. That's a nice short name. And you can't change your color, your skin. You can't change your birthplace. But I can shorten my name just for namesake, you know, for ease. No, gotta be Frederick. I said, I could see I'm getting nowhere. You, sir, are a true American. When you go home tonight, I hope you tell your wife and kids when they ask you how your day was, that you are an intransient person who has no sense of reality. And it is truly a wonder of this world. So if you want a good argument, never, ever go to a bureaucratic government office. Or maybe you should, just for the sake of argument.